Dr. Lisa Carter wiped the sweat from her forehead as she finished stitching up the deep cut on the Zephyrian's arm. The alien's blue skin was tough, but the metal beam that had fallen in the cargo bay had sliced right through it. She stepped back and checked her work one more time. "There you go, Kexthral. That should heal nicely in about a week," Lisa said, pulling off her medical gloves. The Zephyrian flexed his arm carefully and nodded his thanks. "Dr. Carter is very skilled," said Veltara, the station's head alien medic. The tall, thin creature had been watching Lisa work with great interest. "But I have a question about humans." Lisa looked up from cleaning her tools. "What kind of question?" Veltara moved closer to the medical scanner where Lisa's own health data was still displayed. From her weekly checkup, the alien's large dark eyes studied the screen carefully. "These readings, they are very strange." "Strange how?" Lisa asked, moving to stand beside the medic. She had been working on the research station New Horizon for 2 years now. Veltara had always been curious about human medicine, but this seemed different. "Your brain patterns," Veltara pointed at the screen with one of her forearms, "and bone density, also organ development, all very, how do you say, incomplete." Lisa frowned. "Incomplete? I'm a perfectly healthy 32-year-old human." "That is what confuses me," Veltara said. She pulled up another screen showing Zephyrian medical data. "Look, when my people are born, we are fully developed. Brain is complete. Bones are hard. All organs work at full capacity. But humans?" She gestured at Lisa's scans again. "You appear to be born before you are finished growing." "That's ridiculous," Lisa said, but something in Veltara's tone made her pause. "What do you mean?" Veltara called up more data on her computer. "I have been studying human medical files for months. Every human on this station shows same patterns. Your skulls are still soft when born. Your brains continue growing for many years. Your bones do not fully harden until you are adults. By galactic medical standards, humans are born at maybe 60% development." Lisa stared at the screen. She had never thought about human development compared to other species. But that's just how humans are. We're born small and helpless. Then we grow up. "Yes, but that is the strange part," Veltara said, her voice filled with wonder. "Most species that are born incomplete die quickly. But humans not only survive, you live longer than almost any species in the galaxy." "What do you mean longer?" Lisa asked. Veltara pulled up more files. "Average Zephyrian lifespan is 45 years. Corellians live maybe 50 years. Centaurians live 60 years if they are lucky. But humans live 80, 90, even 100 years. Some live longer." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. "Are you sure about this?" "I want to run more tests," Veltara said. "Compare human development with 12 other species in our database. Will you help me?" Lisa nodded slowly. "Of course, but I think you might be wrong about this." They worked through the night, pulling medical records from every species on the station. The computer ran comparison after comparison. Each result showed the same thing. Humans were born far earlier in their development cycle than any other known species, yet they consistently outlived almost everyone. "This makes no sense," Lisa muttered, staring at the data for the 100th time. "How can we be born incomplete but live the longest?" "That is exactly what I want to know," Veltara said. "Look at this." She pointed to a brain scan comparison. When Corellian is born, brain is 95% complete. When human is born, brain is maybe 40% complete. But human brain continues growing and changing for 20 years or more. No other species does this. Lisa rubbed her temples. "So you're saying humans are basically born premature by galactic standards?" "Not just premature," Veltara said excitedly. "Severely premature. But somehow this makes you stronger, not weaker." The door to the medical bay slid open and Captain Ryan Brooks walked in. He was a big man with gray hair and kind eyes. "Lisa, I heard you were working late again. Everything okay?" "Actually, Captain, you should hear this," Lisa said. She quickly explained what they had discovered. Captain Brooks listened carefully, his expression growing more serious with each detail. When Lisa finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Let me get this straight," he said finally. "Every human is born months before we should be, but we still outlive most aliens?" "That is correct," Veltara said. "It should be impossible, but the data does not lie." Captain Brooks walked over to look at the screens himself. "And you've checked this against how many species?" 12 so far," Lisa replied. "We want to check more, but the pattern is clear." "This is—" Captain Brooks stopped and shook his head. "This could change everything. If what you're saying is true, it means humans are fundamentally different from every other species in ways we never imagined." "Should we report this to Earth?" Lisa asked. Captain Brooks nodded. "And to the Galactic Medical Council. They need to know about this discovery." He paused and looked at both of them. "But I want you to triple-check everything first. Make sure the data is absolutely correct. If we're wrong about this, we'll look like fools. But if we're right, it means humans have been surviving and thriving despite being born incomplete," Lisa finished. "Which should be impossible." "Exactly," Captain Brooks said. "Get me a full report by tomorrow. I'll start preparing the communications to Earth and the Council." As the captain left, Lisa and Veltara looked at each other. "Are you sure you want to continue this research?" Veltara asked. "Once this information spreads, it will change how the entire galaxy sees humans." Lisa looked at the data one more time. Every scan, every comparison, every test pointed to the same impossible conclusion. Humans were born premature by galactic standards, yet they were among the longest living species in known space. "We have to," she said. "If this is true, everyone deserves to know. Besides, maybe understanding why this works will help other species too." Veltara nodded. "Then we continue, but I think you humans are about to discover something very surprising about yourselves." Lisa saved all their data and began preparing the report that would soon shock the entire galaxy. She had no idea that this simple medical observation would lead to the greatest revelation about humanity since they first reached the stars. 3 months had passed since Dr. Lisa Carter sent her report to Earth and the Galactic Medical Council. The response had been swift and overwhelming. Now the research station New Horizon buzzed with activity as the galaxy's top scientists arrived to study human biology. Dr. Kevin Martinez stood in the main laboratory watching as alien scientists unpacked equipment he had never seen before. The Altarian scientist Zixmora directed her team with precise movements of her 6 arms. Her blue, crystalline skin caught the light as she worked. Beside her, the methodical Centaurian researcher Kelnoth checked each instrument twice before allowing it to be activated. "Dr. Martinez," Zixmora called out in her musical voice. "We are ready to begin the deep scans. Are your human volunteers prepared?" Kevin nodded. "We have 12 volunteers of different ages, from baby Sarah, who is 6 months old, to elderly, Frank, who is 93 years old. They've all agreed to help with the research." Kelnoth approached with his clipboard. The tall gray alien moved slowly but deliberately. "This is unprecedented in galactic scientific history. Never before have we found a species that appears born incomplete, yet thrives beyond all expectations." Lisa Carter joined them, carrying more medical files. "The initial results are even stranger than we first thought. I've been comparing human development with the new data from 23 different species. Humans are unique in every category." "Show us," Zixmora said, her large eyes glowing with interest. They gathered around the main display screen as Lisa brought up her latest findings. "Look at brain development first. Most species are born with their brains 90 to 95% complete. Human babies are born with brains that are only 35 to 40% developed." "Impossible," Kelnoth muttered. "How do they survive?" "That's the amazing part," Kevin said. "Not only do they survive, but their brains continue major development for the next 15 to 20 years. No other species does this." Zixmora studied the brain scans carefully. "These neural pathways, they are still forming in your young humans. This should make them vulnerable, but instead it makes them adaptable." Lisa nodded excitedly. "Exactly. Human children can learn new languages perfectly until age 12. They can adapt to completely different environments. Their brains literally reshape themselves based on what they experience. Commander Jake Phillips entered the laboratory. The military liaison had been observing the research with great interest. Dr. Martinez, the scientists wanted to see the historical survival data we discussed. Right, Kevin said, pulling up new files. Commander Phillips provided us with human historical records going back thousands of years. The survival rates are incredible. Jake moved to the display. Humans have survived ice ages that lasted thousands of years. We've survived plagues that killed millions but never wiped us out completely. We've survived wars, natural disasters, even survived in space without proper equipment long enough to be rescued. Kelnoth's eyes widened. Your species has survived ice ages? Global cooling events that last thousands of years? Multiple ice ages, Jake confirmed. And not just survived, we thrived. We learned to make fire, build shelters, hunt new animals, create new tools. Each challenge made us stronger. Dr. Nina Parker arrived carrying a tablet full of data. The human developmental biologist looked tired but excited. I have the longevity comparisons ready. The results are stunning. She connected her tablet to the main screen. Charts and graphs filled the display. Average human lifespan is currently 87 years. But look at these other species' lifespans. The data was clear. Zephyrians lived an average of 45 years. Corellians averaged 52 years. Centaurians lived about 60 years. Even the advanced Altarians only lived an average of 73 years. This makes no scientific sense, Zixmora said, her voice filled with wonder. Species born incomplete should have shorter lifespans, not longer ones. Nina smiled. That's because we're looking at it wrong. Humans aren't born incomplete. We're born with a different strategy. Look at this data on human childhood development. New charts appeared showing human growth from birth to adulthood. Other species are born ready to survive immediately. They have hard bones, complete brains, and fully developed organs. But this means they're also fixed in their capabilities. Fixed how? Kelnoth asked. Their brains can't change much after birth, Nina explained. Their bones are already set. Their organs work at maximum efficiency but can't adapt to new conditions. They're like perfectly built machines. Kevin stepped forward. But humans are born like flexible clay that continues to be shaped for decades. Our soft skulls allow our brains to grow larger. Our incomplete bone development lets us adapt to different gravity levels and physical demands. And the extended childhood period? Zixmora asked. That's the key, Nina said enthusiastically. Most species consider human childhood inefficient. Human babies can't walk for a year. They can't hunt or defend themselves for many years. Other species see this as weakness. Jake nodded. But that long childhood is what makes us so adaptable as adults. We have years to learn, to develop problem-solving skills, to understand complex social relationships. Lisa pulled up comparative data on learning abilities. Look at this. Adult Corellians can learn maybe 5 to 10 new skills in their lifetime. Adult humans can learn hundreds of new skills. We never stop adapting. Your species treats learning as a lifetime activity, Kelnoth observed. Most species learn everything they need in their first few years, then stop. Exactly, Kevin said. And that's why we live longer. When environments change, when new challenges appear, humans can learn new ways to survive. Other species often can't adapt fast enough. Zixmora moved closer to the screen displaying human brain scans. These neural connections, they continue forming throughout your entire lifespan. Incredible. Even elderly humans like Frank can still learn new skills, Nina added. His 93-year-old brain is still creating new neural pathways. That's unheard of in most species. Jake brought up historical records on his tablet. We have documentation of humans surviving in environments that would kill most aliens. Desert planets with almost no water. Ice worlds with temperatures that should freeze biological tissue. High radiation areas that damage most life forms. How do they survive such conditions? Kelnoth asked. Adaptation, Lisa said simply. Human bodies can adjust to different environments over time. We can build tolerance to heat, cold, radiation, even low oxygen levels. Our incomplete development at birth means we stay flexible throughout our lives. Kevin looked around at the alien scientists. So humans aren't born premature by accident. Our early birth and extended development period is actually an evolutionary advantage. A remarkable evolutionary advantage, Zixmora agreed. Your species chose adaptability over immediate efficiency. You chose lifelong learning over fixed capabilities. Nina nodded. And the result is a species that can survive almost anything and live longer than species that seem much more advanced at birth. Jake smiled. Turns out being born incomplete was the best thing that ever happened to humanity. Kelnoth was still studying the data. This will change everything we understand about biology and evolution. Your species has achieved something no other known species has managed. What's that? Lisa asked. You've created a species that never stops growing, never stops adapting, and never stops becoming more than what it was, Zixmora said with obvious admiration. Truly remarkable. As the alien scientists continued their work, Kevin realized they were not just studying human biology anymore. They were discovering that humanity's greatest strength came from what everyone had always considered their greatest weakness. Being born incomplete had made humans the most complete species in the galaxy. The news about human biology spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every planet, every space station, every alien civilization was talking about the discovery. Humans were born incomplete, yet they lived longer than almost every other species. The implications were staggering, and not everyone was happy about it. Ambassador Claire Watson stood in her office aboard the diplomatic ship heading to the Galactic Senate. She had been Earth's representative for 5 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The emergency session called by the Senate would determine humanity's future in galactic society. Her assistant, Bobby Chen, rushed in with the latest reports. Ambassador, we're getting conflicting reactions from across the galaxy. Some species are fascinated by the discovery, but others are calling for immediate action against humanity. Claire frowned as she read the reports. What kind of action? The Corellian Empire wants humans classified as a defective species requiring protection and supervision, Bobby said. They're arguing that any species born incomplete can't be trusted with advanced technology or political decisions. Claire shook her head. The Corellians were known for their military efficiency and rigid thinking. This response was exactly what she had feared. What about the other major powers? The Etherian Collective is supporting us, Bobby replied. Elder Nymphara issued a statement calling human development the highest form of evolution. But the hegemony of steel is taking the opposite position. Claire felt her stomach drop. The machine-focused hegemony controlled significant portions of galactic trade. If they turned against humanity, it could mean economic disaster for human colonies. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Amy Henderson was meeting with her top advisors in the White House Situation Room. General Chris Sullivan, the head of Earth's military forces, looked grim as he reviewed intelligence reports. Madam President, we're seeing increased military activity near several human colonies, he said. The Corellians are positioning ships near our outer territories. They claim it's for protection purposes, but we know better. Dr. Samuel Foster, Earth's leading evolutionary biologist, looked up from his tablet. I've been analyzing the scientific data. There's no question that the alien researchers are correct. Humans are born significantly earlier in our development cycle than other species. But this is our greatest strength, not a weakness. Try explaining that to a Corellian war chief, General Sullivan muttered. President Henderson stood and walked to the window overlooking the White House lawn. Dr. Foster, I need you to prepare a comprehensive report for Ambassador Watson. She needs every piece of evidence we can provide to defend our position. Back in space, the Galactic Senate was preparing for the emergency session. War Chief Tulvar of the Corellian Empire arrived with a full military escort. His red armor gleamed under the station lights as he spoke to reporters. The evidence is clear, Tulvar declared in his booming voice. Humans are born defective. Their incomplete development makes them unpredictable and dangerous. How can we trust a species that isn't even fully formed at birth to make decisions that affect the entire galaxy? Elder Nymphara of the Etherian Collective responded immediately. The ancient alien's translucent form shimmered as she spoke. War Chief Tulvar misunderstands the significance of this discovery. Humanity has not shown us a defect. They have shown us the future of evolution, a species that continues growing and adapting throughout its entire lifespan. The debate grew, more heated when Supreme Calculator ZTEX-7 of the Hegemony of Steel made their position known. The artificial intelligence spoke through speakers mounted on a mechanical body. Biological inefficiency has been demonstrated conclusively, the machine intelligence announced. Humans require decades to reach full functionality. This proves that biological life is inferior to artificial intelligence and cybernetic enhancement. The galaxy should embrace mechanical perfection, not biological flaws. This statement outraged many of the organic species. Even those who had been critical of humanity found themselves defending biological life against the machine's claims. On the human colony world of New Terra, people gathered around public screens to watch the Senate debates. Construction worker Mike Turner stopped his excavator to listen as his supervisor, Janet Miller, read updates from her tablet. "The Etherians are standing with us," Janet said, "but the Corellians want to put us under some kind of protection status. They're saying we need supervision because we're born too early." Mike spat in the dust. "Protection? We've been taking care of ourselves just fine. Built colonies on dozens of worlds, survived in places that would kill most of these aliens." "That's exactly what Ambassador Watson needs to prove," Janet replied. At the Senate, Ambassador Watson finally took the floor. The massive chamber fell silent as she approached the speaking platform. Representatives from hundreds of species watched as she began to speak. "Honored delegates," Claire began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "We have heard claims that humanity is defective, incomplete, and requires supervision. I stand before you today to prove the opposite." She activated the holographic display behind her. Images of human achievements appeared in the air above the assembly. Yes, humans are born earlier in our development than other species. But this is not a flaw. It is our greatest gift. While other species are born with fixed capabilities, humans are born with unlimited potential. The display showed human children learning multiple languages, adapting to different environments, solving complex problems through creativity and innovation. Other species complete their development in the womb, Claire continued. But humans complete our development in the universe. We learn from every environment, every challenge, every interaction. This makes us the most adaptable species in known space. War Chief Tulvar stood to interrupt. "Adaptability means nothing without strength and efficiency." "Does it?" Claire asked, changing the display to show human survival statistics. "Humans have colonized worlds with extreme temperatures, dangerous radiation levels, and hostile environments. We have survived ice ages, global disasters, and wars that lasted centuries. We don't just survive, we thrive." Elder Nymphara nodded approvingly. "The ambassador speaks truth. Humanity has accomplished in 500 years what most species require thousands of years to achieve. Because we never stop learning," Claire said. "A human child can adapt to any environment on any world. A human adult can learn new skills throughout their entire lifetime. A human elder can still grow and change even in their final years. No other species can make this claim." The Supreme Calculator's mechanical voice cut through the chamber. "Efficiency requires optimization, not endless change." Claire turned to face the machine representative. "And yet humans consistently outlive species that are supposedly more optimized than us. We live longer, adapt faster, and solve problems that other species consider impossible. If that isn't efficiency, what is?" Murmurs spread through the assembly as delegates discussed her words. Many species had never considered that extended development could be an advantage rather than a weakness. "Humans are not defective," Claire concluded. "We are not incomplete. We are not in need of protection or supervision. We are what evolution looks like when a species chooses growth over limitations, adaptation over rigidity, and potential over predetermined paths." She paused and looked around the chamber, The question before this assembly is not whether humans are complete enough to participate in galactic civilization. The question is whether galactic civilization is ready to learn from a species that never stops growing. The chamber erupted in discussion as delegates debated among themselves. Some species were clearly convinced by Claire's arguments, while others remained skeptical. War Chief Tulvar stood again. Words are meaningless without proof. Humans claim to be superior because of their incomplete birth, but where is the evidence? Claire smiled. She had been waiting for this challenge. War Chief, I believe the evidence is about to present itself. I have just received word that human archaeologists have made a discovery that will change everything we thought we knew about human origins. The chamber fell silent as Claire activated her communication device. Dr. Ben Taylor, please report your findings to the Galactic Senate. As the transmission connected, everyone in the chamber leaned forward to hear what the human archaeologist had discovered. None of them realized that the news about to be shared would completely transform their understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. Dr. Ben Taylor wiped the ancient dust from his hands as he stood before the massive stone wall deep inside the ruins. The symbols carved into the rock glowed faintly with an inner light that had lasted for 50,000 years. Beside him, the alien historian Keflon carefully recorded each marking with his advanced scanning equipment. This is impossible, Ben muttered, staring at the wall. These symbols, they're talking about humans. But this city is older than human civilization by tens of thousands of years. Keflon's tentacles moved nervously as he read the translations, appearing on his device. Dr. Taylor, I think you need to see this. The text is talking about something called the adaptive species, and the incomplete ones who will become complete. Ben felt his heart racing. They had been exploring these ruins on the remote planet Kepler 442c for 3 months. The city had been built by the predecessors, the mysterious race that had disappeared long before any current galactic civilization had developed space travel. Most scientists believed the predecessors were just a myth, but here was proof they had existed. Read me the full translation, Ben said, pulling out his communication device to record everything. Keflon's voice was shaky as he read. The text says, "We have learned from our mistake. Perfect species become extinct species. We were too complete, too finished, too unable to change when the great disaster came. Now, we create a different path. One species will be born incomplete, born early, born with the gift of endless growth." Ben stared at the wall in shock. Are you saying the predecessors deliberately made humans be born premature? It gets stranger, Keflon said, moving to the next section of wall. Listen to this. The incomplete ones will seem weak to other species. They will be born helpless when others are born strong. They will take many years to grow when others are ready immediately. But this apparent weakness will be their greatest strength. Before Ben could respond, his communication device buzzed. It was Dr. Rachel Smith, the xenoarchaeologist working in the deeper chambers of the ruins. Ben, you need to get down here right now. Rachel's voice crackled through the device. I found something incredible. There's an entire chamber dedicated to human development, and the predecessors left detailed records about why they designed us this way. Ben and Keflon hurried through the winding passages to the lower levels. The ruins were vast, carved directly into the planet's bedrock. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on walls covered with more glowing symbols. They found Rachel standing before a circular chamber filled with holographic displays that were still somehow functioning. After 50 millennia, the holograms showed images of various alien species, including unmistakable images of early humans. Rachel, how is this technology still working? Ben asked in amazement. I don't know, but look at what it's showing us, Rachel said, pointing to the displays. The predecessors didn't just know about humans. They designed us. The holographic display changed to show the predecessors themselves. They were tall, elegant beings with smooth, pale skin and large eyes. But as the images continued, it became clear that they were dying out. According to these records, Rachel explained, the predecessors were the most advanced species in galactic history. They had perfect genetics, perfect technology, perfect society. But when their environment changed catastrophically, they couldn't adapt fast enough. Keflon was recording everything frantically. What kind of change? Some kind of cosmic event, Rachel said, studying the holographic data. Maybe a supernova, maybe something else. But the point is, their perfection became their doom. They were too specialized to change when they needed to. The holographic display shifted to show detailed genetic charts and development timelines. Ben recognized human DNA structures among the complex diagrams. "This is unbelievable," Ben whispered. "They're showing human development from conception to old age, and it's exactly what the scientists at New Horizon discovered. Humans are born at 60% development compared to other species." Captain Tony Rodriguez entered the chamber with his security team. The military officer looked around at the ancient technology with obvious amazement. "Dr. Taylor, Ambassador Watson is waiting for your report. The entire Galactic Senate is listening." "Tell them we'll have something incredible to report in just a few minutes," Ben said. "Rachel, what else do these records show?" Rachel manipulated the holographic controls, bringing up new displays. The predecessors experimented with hundreds of different species across the galaxy. Most they designed for immediate survival and efficiency. But for one species, humans, they chose a completely different approach. The display showed human babies compared to alien babies. The differences were stark. While alien infants were born ready to survive independently, human babies were tiny, helpless, and completely dependent on their parents. The predecessors called this extended development, Rachel continued. They deliberately made human gestation shorter and post-birth development longer. Look at this chart. They show human brain development continuing for 25 years after birth. Keflon was translating more text. Here's why they did it. Short-lived perfection fails when conditions change. Long-lived adaptation succeeds when conditions always change. The incomplete ones will face many challenges, but each challenge will make them stronger. Ben moved closer to the display. So our premature birth wasn't an accident or an evolutionary quirk. It was intentional design by the most advanced species in galactic history. "It gets better," Rachel said, activating another section of the chamber. The walls lit up with more images and text. "The predecessors left us a message. They knew humans would eventually find this place." A new holographic figure appeared, a predecessor speaking directly to the camera. The alien's voice was translated into English by the ancient systems. "To the incomplete ones who have found this record," the holographic predecessor said, "you are not broken. You are not premature. You are not defective. You are our greatest achievement. We created you to be what we could not be. A species that never stops growing, never stops learning, never stops adapting." Ben felt chills run down his spine as the message continued. "Other species will call you weak because you are born small. They will call you inferior because you take many years to mature. They will call you flawed because you never stop changing. Do not believe them. Your apparent weaknesses are actually your greatest strengths." The holographic predecessor gestured to displays showing human achievements across the galaxy. "You will survive ice ages because you can adapt to cold. You will survive disasters because you can learn new ways to live. You will outlive species that seem stronger because you never stop growing stronger yourselves." Captain Rodriguez was recording everything on his device. "Dr. Taylor, this changes everything. If the predecessors deliberately designed humans to be born premature, then humanity isn't defective. We're their masterpiece." The final part of the message began playing. "We leave this record for the day when other species discover your true nature. Show them that incomplete birth does not mean incomplete life. Show them that early birth leads to longer life. Show them that the species willing to grow forever will outlast the species that believe they are already perfect." The holographic predecessor looked directly at the camera. "You are our children, our hope, and our legacy. The galaxy will try to tell you that you are broken. Instead, show them that you are what they could become if they chose growth over perfection." Message ended and the chamber fell silent. Ben, Rachel, and Keflon stood in stunned silence, processing what they had just witnessed. The predecessors didn't just create humans, Rachel said quietly. They created us to be the galaxy's backup plan. A species that could survive anything, because we never stop adapting to everything. Ben activated his communication device. Ambassador Watson, this is Dr. Taylor. Are you ready for our report? The entire Galactic Senate is waiting, came Claire's voice through the device. Ben looked around at the incredible chamber filled with proof of humanity's true origins. Ambassador, tell the Senate that humans aren't born premature by accident. We were designed by the predecessors to be born early so we could spend our entire lives becoming more than we were designed to be. He paused, looking at the holographic displays showing human potential. Tell them that being born incomplete was never humanity's weakness, it was always our greatest gift. 6 months after Dr. Ben Taylor's discovery, the galaxy had completely changed its view of humanity. The Galactic Council's official declaration was displayed on every space station and colony world. Humans are hereby recognized as the adaptive, heirs of the predecessors, inheritors of the galaxy's greatest evolutionary achievement. Admiral Grace Coleman stood on the bridge of the flagship Resilience, watching as ships from dozen different species joined the newly formed Adaptive Response Fleet. Zephyrian vessels flew alongside Centaurian cruisers. Even some Corellian ships had volunteered to join the mixed fleet designed to handle crisis situations across the galaxy. Admiral, we're receiving a distress signal from the Kepler system, reported Lieutenant Danny Roberts from the communication station. The mining colony on Kepler 7 is facing a complete environmental collapse. Volcanic activity has made the atmosphere toxic. Grace nodded. Set course for Kepler 7. Signal all ships to prepare for emergency evacuation procedures. But as they approached the doomed planet, it became clear that evacuation wasn't possible. The colony held 50,000 people from 6 different species, and their ships couldn't carry everyone to safety in time. Engineer Ashley Brooks was called to the command center along with representatives from each alien species in the fleet. The Zephyrian engineer Yixtal looked grim as he studied the readings. The atmosphere will be completely poisonous in 18 hours, Yixtal reported. Our ships can only evacuate 30,000 people in that time. 20,000 will die. What about emergency shelters? Asked Velnara, the Centaurian science officer. The volcanic gases will penetrate any standard shelter within hours, replied Korthon, the Etherian environmental specialist. No known. Technology can protect against this level of contamination for the time needed. Ashley studied the data on her tablet, her mind racing through possibilities. The other engineers had already concluded that saving everyone was impossible using standard methods. But Ashley wasn't thinking about standard methods. What if we don't try to keep the gas out? She said suddenly. What if we filter it as it comes in? The alien engineers looked confused. Filter volcanic gases? That is impossible, Yixtal said. Not filter the gases themselves, Ashley explained, pulling up diagrams on the main screen. Filter the air inside the shelters continuously. Create a closed-loop system that constantly cleans the air as people breathe it. The power requirements would be enormous, Velnara pointed out. Then we use the volcanic activity itself as a power source, Ashley said, her excitement growing. Geothermal energy from the same volcanoes that are creating the problem. Dr. Peter Morgan, who was aboard as the fleet's adaptation specialist, leaned forward. Ashley, that's never been tried before. The engineering challenges would be incredible. Maybe for most species, Ashley said with a grin. But humans specialize in solving problems that have never been solved before. Admiral Coleman made the decision quickly. Do it, we have 16 hours. The next 16 hours showed the galaxy something they had never seen before. Human engineers worked alongside alien specialists, but it was the humans who kept finding solutions when others said problems were impossible. When the power coupling systems failed, human engineer Carl Wilson improvised repairs using spare parts from 3 different ships. When the air filtration system couldn't handle the gas mixture, human chemist Laura Johnson created a new filter compound using materials she found in the colony's storage areas. Most remarkably, when the computer systems couldn't calculate the complex atmospheric dynamics, 12-year-old human prodigy Alex Stevens worked with the adult engineers to solve equations that the most advanced alien computers said were unsolvable. "How is the human child doing calculations that our computers cannot handle?" asked Corthon in amazement. Dr. Morgan smiled as he watched Alex work. "Because his brain is still developing. He can form new neural pathways and think in ways that fixed computer programming can't match. This is what human neuroplasticity looks like in action." When the deadline arrived, all 50,000 colonists were safely protected inside the modified shelters. The volcanic gases raged outside, but inside, the hybrid human-alien technology kept everyone alive and breathing clean air. The success at Kepler 7 was broadcast across the galaxy, but it was only the beginning. Admiral Coleman began receiving requests from dozens of worlds facing supposedly impossible problems. The crisis on Altair 3 came 2 months later. An ancient automated defense system had suddenly activated, threatening to destroy all imperfect life on 12 different planets. The system had been built by the predecessors 50,000 years ago and was beyond the technology of any current species to understand or control. Commander Steve Harris led the team that approached the massive space station housing the defense system. With him was Dr. Laura Johnson, now recognized as one of the galaxy's leading experts on predecessor technology. "The system is scanning every ship that approaches," reported technician Gary Foster. "It's looking for what it calls genetic completion standards. Any species that doesn't meet its criteria gets targeted for elimination." "What are the criteria?" Laura asked. "Full brain development at birth, complete bone formation, finished organ systems," Gary read from his scanner. "Basically, it wants to eliminate any species that shows signs of incomplete development." Steve realized the horrible irony. "It's trying to eliminate humans because we're born premature. The very thing that makes us special is what this machine sees as a defect to be corrected." "Can we shut it down?" Laura asked. "Not from out here," Gary replied. "Someone would have to go inside and interface directly with the main computer core, which will scan whoever goes in and determine if they're genetically complete enough to live," Steve said grimly. Laura was quiet for a moment, then began to smile. "Actually, that might be exactly what we need." 2 hours later, Laura approached the defense system's central computer. As expected, the ancient machine immediately began scanning her genetic structure. "Genetic analysis complete," the computer announced in an emotionless voice. "Subject shows severe developmental deficiencies. Brain formation incomplete. Bone structure inadequate. Organ systems underdeveloped. Recommend immediate termination." "Wait," Laura said calmly. "I request permission to explain these genetic variations." The computer paused. "Explanation protocol activated. State the nature of genetic deficiencies." "These aren't deficiencies," Laura said. "They're improvements. The predecessors who built you discovered that complete development at birth leads to evolutionary dead ends. They designed my species to be born incomplete so we could continue growing throughout our lives." "Impossible. Incomplete development indicates genetic failure." "Then explain this," Laura said, interfacing her tablet with the computer system. "Genetic records from your own databases showing predecessor research into adaptive development strategies." For several long minutes, the ancient computer processed the information Laura had provided. Finally, it spoke again. "Predecessor research. Files confirm adaptive development theory. Species with extended development periods show superior long-term survival rates." "That's right," Laura said. "The predecessors learned that perfection leads to extinction. They designed my species to never stop growing, never stop adapting, never stop becoming more than we were." Recalculating genetic standards, the computer announced. "New criteria. Species with continued development capacity show advanced evolutionary strategy, not genetic deficiency. The defense system powered down, its threat sensors going dark across 12 star systems." Steve's voice came through, Laura's communicator. "How did you know that would work?" "Because I understood something the predecessors built into that machine," Laura replied. "They programmed it to protect perfect species, but they also programmed it to recognize that perfection isn't always the best survival strategy." News of the defense system incident spread across the galaxy even faster than the original medical discovery. Species that had once viewed human development as inferior now understood that humanity carried the wisdom of the galaxy's most advanced civilization. Elder Nymphara of the Etherian Collective issued a statement that was broadcast on every world. We have learned that true strength is not being born complete, but continuing to become complete throughout an entire lifetime. Even War Chief Tulvar of the Corellian Empire publicly apologized for his earlier statements. We mistook human adaptability for weakness. We see now that a species that never stops growing is stronger than a species that stops growing at birth. Schools across the galaxy, human children now learned alongside alien students. But instead of being viewed as slower or less developed, human children were seen as having unlimited potential. 8-year-old human student Emma Price sat in a classroom on the orbital station Unity, working on a math problem with her Zephyrian classmate Kexvel. The alien child had been born with complete mathematical capabilities while Emma was still learning basic calculations. I wish I could solve problems as fast as you can, Emma said to Kexvel. The young Zephyrian looked thoughtful. But you will be able to learn new kinds of math for your whole life. I can only use the math I was born with. Their teacher, a Centaurian named Kelsera, nodded approvingly. That is the gift of human development. Other species